And I think maybe I got an ad or two, downloaded it, tried it. My life changed. Have been using it every day since. Like, it's safe to say that Select is open every day on my computer.
Hey
Well,
everyone, I'm here with Sophie Sahara. We are chatting about Narrative Select and how it benefits her business and the way it helps with her workflow. Um, Sophie, tell us about yourself and where you're at and what your business is like.
sure. Well, I am a New York based fashion and lifestyle photographer. I've been working professionally probably for about 10 years now, which feels kind of crazy to say. I moved to New York to do my MFA at Parsons in photography. And, always kind of thought that I'd work in house as a photographer somewhere, maybe for like a fashion brand. But while I was in school, I had been kind of just placing the groundwork with meeting new clients and shooting a lot. And by the time I graduated, I sort of had a freelance business running. So I've just been doing freelance ever since. So it's probably been about 3, 4 years of freelance for me.
That's so amazing. I feel like freelance I would get asked a lot by friends that aren't in the industry, like, oh, you're a freelance photographer. And being a wedding photographer doesn't feel so freelance because it's
Mm-hmm.
pretty structured. Like, I know that I have a gig a year out, but
Mm-hmm.
being in fashion, you're truly like freelance. You're really making your own work from month to month. Yeah.
Oh, yeah. Oh, yeah. It definitely varies. I mean, I feel very grateful that it's been pretty steady. But, like every month is different. So, January, we always go through a little lull and things are kind of picking back up now in the spring.
So for somebody that, I'll be honest, I'm not a fashion photographer. My insight into that world is people like Laura Jade or Emily
Mhm.
Teague.
Mhm.
So I really don't know that side of the business at all too much. Who are your clients? Who is getting you work and paying you and making your world happen?
My clients vary. I've got kind of a nice range of clients, which is I feel very grateful for. I do some celebrity. I work for a tequila company that we work pretty regularly together. I do some product beauty space. So I have a studio in Brooklyn, so I shoot a lot of like beauty product and like social imagery there. So it'll be, we'll do like product and we'll do like lifestyle and on model. What else? I do some influencer work as well.
Okay.
And then, some event work where it comes up, where it feels fitting. So
Yeah,
quite
that
varied.
seems like you're kind of, yeah, you're in a few different lanes. I
Yeah.
feel like when I started, I was doing a little bit of everything on the portrait side, from
Mhm.
families to brands to seniors to weddings, and then honed it down to just weddings.
Mhm.
Are there things that are in your fashion space or commercial space where you're like, oh, I really don't have an interest in even photographing that kind of content?
That's an interesting question because I like yes and no. So yes, there are some things that I wouldn't shoot mostly because, I try to focus mostly on fashion. Um,
Yeah.
Personally, I love to shoot everything. Like, I think that, shooting lots of different things keeps things really interesting and it gives me new energy when I go to shoot my regular clients, as opposed to, if you're shooting street style day in, day out, like, yes, it's beautiful to hone your craft, but
Yeah.
also you can get kind of tired and a bit worn and it gets a bit repetitive and you kind of hit the same note each time. So there are some things, I don't do that many interiors. I mostly stick to people and subjects. I usually say like fashion lifestyle because I find that's about as encompassing as I want to go. But, I don't really do too much like on the sports side. I don't do landscape. Some things I won't touch.
Yeah, that's fair. I really like how you describe that as hit the same note, because I feel like in the wedding industry, my one of my indicators for if someone's a really good photographer or not is if they're consistent. And if I
Mhm.
can hire this person to be at a place in Iceland or a building in the burbs of Chicago, can they create the same look or hit the same note?
Mhm.
But it's always trying to do that while also changing it, but not too much to scare future clients or my current ones. But that's nice that you get to kind of bounce around. I can imagine if you just did a bunch of street stuff, it would just, especially in New York, especially in Williamsburg, something like that, just walking around,
Mhm.
at some point, it's going to start to feel the same again and again and again. So it's cool you get to bounce around so regularly.
Definitely. It's a delicate balance. Your clients want exactly what you're saying. Your clients want to know what they're getting ahead
Yeah.
of time. They don't want any surprises, um, unhappy surprises, we'll put it that way.
Yeah.
But,
Yeah.
like, how do you keep it fresh for you?
You're obviously using Select. Were you using anything prior to jumping onto Select or Publish, if you're using that, just in your workflow and to kind of speed things up? Because you're doing stuff that's kind of 1-2 day turnaround time, I feel like, for Fashion Week things. Yeah.
Sometimes. So during Fashion Week, it's like same day. I
Oh, wow,
just
okay.
generally try to be pretty quick with my turnarounds in general, but I usually have a little bit more time than that. So before Select, I was using Adobe Bridge, and I am like a big Bridge fan. I feel like a lot of people don't use Bridge, but I love Adobe Bridge. Um, and I generally really love it for like file management, renaming files, that sort of thing. But it was killing me to cull in Bridge because the buffer time, I was
Yeah,
waiting.
because it's just loading every raw in its full file, right?
Oh my gosh, it was brutal. I even tried, shooting JPEG and RAW just so that I could cull the JPEGs and then switch to
Yeah.
RAWs, like something. And I kept thinking it was also my Mac. So I kept upgrading my computer and I still had the buffer issue. And yeah, it was brutal. So much time has been wasted waiting for Adobe Bridge to buffer.
Oh man, yeah, I remember when the JPEG RAW concept kind of started to come out as a way to speed things up. It was kind of the first practical approach towards these programs being like, okay, we're slow. Let's see if we can pull one of these other files and make it quicker.
Mhm.
How did you run across Select? Was it a photographer that referred you, or did we reach out to you? Or
I think that I got a sponsored ad on Instagram. I think that's how I
nice,
got
good to
it.
know those are paying off.
Yeah, I think I got a sponsored ad and it was like swipe up. And I looked at it and I was like, I don't know. I'm not a wedding photographer. Is this right for me? And I think maybe I got an ad or two, downloaded it, tried it. My life changed. Have been using it every day since. Like, it's safe to
Amazing.
say that Select is open every day on my computer.
How was the adoption process from going from what you were doing and going into Select? Did it feel like,
Mm.
I know there's a few things that I use, like Tave, for instance, as a client studio manager, and it took me days and weeks to get set up. Jumping from photo mechanic to Select felt really quick and easy. Was this something that adopted into your flow like seamlessly?
Oh yeah, definitely, definitely. I mean, I think there were a few quirks, like some of the keyboard shortcuts took me a little bit of time, but once I got it down, what I love Adobe Bridge for is the labeling. Like I really rely, I'm so visual, I really rely on color labels, and Narrative Select has that too. So I could just go to my usual labels, and it was all there.
If you were to like throw a couple benefits out there beyond just obviously the speed of it, what has this impacted in your life? Is it a better work life balance? Is it less
Mm.
fatigue going into your culling and editing process, or just even more consistent galleries for your clients, whatever that may be?
It's definitely impacted like this my turnaround time. Like I feel like from the time I shoot to the time I get proofs out to clients or selects out, way eliminated so much time. I used to cull on Bridge while I'd watch movies, like, when I lived with roommates, like I'd do that. And now I'm much more present for my TV watching. I don't have to do that. Like I get it done beforehand. Um, so yeah, so that's really good. And I think what's also changed is that I enjoy the culling process now. Like generally I don't like making selects, but it used to be kind of the bane of my existence. And honestly, the speed and just how easy it is, just get it done. It doesn't loom over me the way that it used to.
Ooh, yeah, that's incredible. A phrase that has been mentioned a few times in these discussions and just people I've talked with has been photo fatigue and culling fatigue. Um, and it's such a thing. It really is. My favorite part of any gallery I photograph, whether it be a wedding or a model or a brand or anything, is honestly the sharing. I just want to get it uploaded to a gallery and get it off. I want people to start responding to it and fill my ego.
Mhm.
And so the actual editing part of it is fun, but the culling really, yeah, like you said, it used to be kind of the bane of my existence, and I tried to find different ways of doing it and different spaces. There's like a swinging chair behind me here. I would sit in there and try to call and make it a soothing experience with some tea and music, but it still felt kind of like the bane of my existence through the process. And
Totally.
it's amazing that a tool has let you feel easier at that.
Well, absolutely. I even looked into potentially like outsourcing my culling to somebody else just because I was like, this is just taking so long.
Yeah.
But, you know, I've never really outsourced any part of my work. And I feel like you know, you're giving up a lot of control once you do that. And if someone makes selects that you don't agree with, like that's the work. So it's
Yeah.
actually an important part of the process.
Yeah, I've thought about outsourcing so many times, and even just I've usually stopped once I realized the uphill battle of even getting the process started and to set
Mhm.
up and who is it going to do it and where am I going to send it and how are they going to get the files and everything. But then ultimately, yeah, I feel like, especially for weddings, but really for any client, in order to honor our clients as best that we can, they've booked us, they've booked Sophie, they've booked Kyle,
Mhm. Mhm.
and we really have to do the work for that piece of it. And if we're passing it off to someone else, because no two photographers are going to select the same images, it's not a binary answer.
Mhm. Oh, absolutely. This gallery that we're looking at right now is a selection of images that I shot on one of the days during Fashion Week.
Okay.
This past season. So I have already gone through the photos that I shot, and I had already made like a first round select of images that I had to turn around to my clients that day. I've got a couple street style clients, so the images had to be turned around and sent end of day, and they were published that day.
Yeah.
Um, but so this is a folder of images that I didn't select, and I wanted to go through and see what I might have missed.
Ooh, okay, cool. Is that a regular thing that you do? Will like give kind of a second pass through?
It is for things like Fashion Week where, time is so of the essence. Like I've got a time crunch. I've got maybe just a few hours where I need to make all the selects, send them out, and they only need, say, like 40 selects. I really love my photos though, so I have a hard time choosing. I like to
Yeah.
just pick a lot of images. So, but if I only, chose 40 out of, my 800 that I shot that day, I'm sure that there are ones I could have missed and ones that would be more fitting for like my own personal use.
A day like this, what are you coming home with in terms of a pile of images? 800 typical kind of day for you?
Um, 800 would be low. 800 would
Okay.
be low during Fashion Week, especially because you're so rapid fire shooting, and especially when you've got people walking down the street, like you just have to use that SD card, and like maximize that you're shooting digital and not film. I think my maximum from last year Fashion Week was shooting 6,000 in one day.
Oh yeah, that's a lot. That's a wedding with two shooters.
It was a really busy day, and I still had to turn around that same day. So I had to
Wow,
cull through 6,000 and make selects. So
that's incredible.
it was very, very hectic.
So as
But
you're looking through work like this, what are you looking for, and what's jumping off the page for you?
I always have the side frame of like the eyes close up open. I pretty much always work with it on. I absolutely love it. I don't always, focus on the AI feature of what's in focus necessarily for this kind of work because I also don't mind playing with like a little bit of blur. But I think having that detail helps me to immediately see what I'm looking at, who my subject is, eyes open, that sort of thing.
Yeah,
Um, what am I looking for? Generally I really love like images like this with like movement. I love a little backlight. I love to see how the light is uh, working with the subject. I love close up details. I love just images that feel like you're part of it, like you're part of the energy of Fashion Week, especially. There's a lot of really interesting people. And it's like cool to see how everybody displays themselves.
yeah. Everyone really shows up for it. It's making me really question my t-shirt and jeans lifestyle. Um,
I love it. I promise you, they don't always dress like this. This is Fashion Week is very specific.
is scenes view a feature that's beneficial for you when you're working through a day like this, or do you find that your main things are going to be your close-up gallery and just whether it's in focus and assessment scores and things?
Yeah, I don't usually use scene view quite as much. I pretty much just like to go through things individually because I like to sort of like look, I mean, I guess I'm thinking about photos as if you're thinking about like a collection, like I'm looking through to see which one is my favorite within that collection.
Yeah.
But typically, what I do when I get a gallery in is that I start to go through and, as I mentioned, like I always use the color labeling. So like I'll start to go through and label like what my favorites are, and then eventually I'll look through those and pick between them. So I'll look through all
Cool.
my reds and I'll only I'll pick my favorite, which would be that one.
Cool. So
Mhm.
if you come back, you're coming back with 2,500 images or something like
Mhm.
that. I kind of let's land in the middle ground there. What's your amount of time that you're sitting through on select and buzzing through that gallery
Mm.
versus say bridge?
Oh, I mean, it's incomparable. It's incomparable to Bridge. I'm thinking about, I shot backstage for Vogue this season, and one of the shows I, you know, had about a 2 hour period where I had to come home, upload, make selects, edit, send off, as well as eat and change and like look after my personal self. Um, and before heading out to another show that evening. And so I think I timed it where I came in and managed to do everything within like an hour and 45 minutes and get everything out, which
Wow,
was, I think, around 50 selects, edited, sent out, renamed, all that jazz. So, I mean, if I
incredible.
had tried it on Bridge, I would have missed the next show. I would have been here all night.
Thanks for being someone else who says all that jazz. I'm the only person I know who says all that jazz.
That's embarrassing. Okay, great.
No, no, it's my friends make fun of me for it. I say neat a lot too, and they give me a hard time for that too. We should take a glance at what's your other gallery that you have for us here.
Oh yeah, totally. Okay, so this gallery is a studio test shoot that I did with my friend Katie, who's a model, and we had a hair and makeup artist as well in the studio with us. And because this is a test shoot, this is just collaborative for all of us. There isn't a client at the end result of this, so I find I tend to sit on things a little bit when there isn't that time crunch of a client. So I'm in the space now where I need to start making selects. And I've been deciding what quite I'll do. Here, I've gone through the images already. I've given a pass through, and I've gotten them down to about 357. Um, I'm happy to deliver lots because it's collaborative. I want to make sure that everybody's getting lots of photos, but 357 is too many. We did 3 looks here, so I pretty much will, go through these, pick my favorites, kind of like from each pose, basically, and from each look. And you can see I've already started going through. These ones have all been rated red because I've already done one pass through, and I've got
Yeah,
three that aren't rated, have no color. So I've already started going through and getting rid of the ones that are no. I kind of vary my approach, but sometimes I like to go through and highlight the ones that are yeses, and sometimes I like to go through and highlight the ones that are nos. Just kind of keeps it fresh to go back and forth in a different way.
yeah,
Um,
it's nice that Select gives you a couple variable options for how you want to approach a shoot because you're doing such a wide variety of content.
oh, absolutely, absolutely. And sometimes, if I make selects where, I even use like the other labels. Like I'll use yellow for, if I shot like a rapid burst and I want to make it into a GIF, I'll like select all of those and make them yellow. Or, something that I think, maybe only the hairstylist will like, then I'll give it a green. So kind of
Cool.
different folders.
Yeah, I think it gives something I've seen more and more that I talk to people is they're using Select as kind of their one-stop shop to start delegating what images are going to be used for what, even
Mhm.
before they get shipped to Lightroom. So it becomes an organizational space as well as a culling tool.
Oh, absolutely, for sure. Definitely.
As you're looking through these as a test shoot or just a portrait photographer in general, what are you hoping for? What are you looking for? You're obviously considering the hair and the makeup artist and the model and the
Mhm.
entire collaborative experience, but yeah, just an overall like what you're hoping to see.
Generally, I'm looking for images that make me stop, and that really are have like a wow factor to them. Um, Katie's gorgeous. The hair makeup was gorgeous. Like all of these are nice images, but what really makes you kind of stop? Like I like this image, for example, because it feels really intimate. Even though you can see, that it's great focus, it doesn't look perfect focus. Yeah, look, it's looking pretty soft, but I actually kind of like that for that reason. Like it feels very intimate. Her hand blur, like it feels like we're really caught in the moment with something like that. Um, I think I'm really looking for like her feeling very engaged and just generally something that makes you feel like wow and makes you want to stop.
Yeah. I
Hmm.
think a really cool benefit of really any tool like Select or anything that you still have a very hands-on approach with is that you get this benefit of it's working with you and not for you. And so you get to still dictate what you want to pull out of it, even if it's something that's not an assessment score that is noted by Select as a great image, because a good image is very subjective.
Oh, absolutely. I think when I first heard about Select and started using it, and I heard I was like, oh, am I offloading culling to AI? Like, is this going to do the culling for me? And I was actually quite resistant to that. But using the software and seeing how much it can help, especially when you're going through a huge batch of images and you just need to know like how are we looking. But I use the spacebar feature often just as I go, to check. You can even see me shooting in her high reflection.
And it's so quick with these really high res Canon files you're running through right now.
Oh, absolutely. It's so quick. It's so quick. No buffer time.
Yeah, even as somebody who works for narrative, I'm continually impressed by just how freaking fast it is.
Hmm. Hmm. Oh, absolutely. I had a story for you, which was that last night I was at an event and the photographer there, I started chatting with her and she was saying how, like, after shooting events, she gets so excited. She can't wait to go home and offload her photos and see what she gets. And she was like, yeah, I love to go home. I plug them in. I wait for it to buffer. I go get a snack. And that was actually what she told me. And
Oh man.
I was like, you wait for it to buffer? I was like, girl, I have software for you. I was like, I don't even want to tell you about this because it's so good, but I will.
Yeah, it's like your perfect little secret. It's about, I think somebody compared it recently to the time takes to make a pour over, like
Uh-huh.
your entire gallery is already assessed and ready to go.
I mean, I would say less.
Yeah, yeah. Honestly, based on it's truly even faster than that.
Hmm. Hmm.
Just as kind of a quick overview. So you come home from a shoot. What's your ingest data backup workflow looking like?
This is how I do my file management. So I have my Sophie Sahara photo folder, and by no means is this perfect. Just to note, we all have the things that we like to work on, but this has always worked for me because I shoot a variety of different content. My first name of business is writing down like what categorizing it. So I've got my event work is the first um, name in the folder. Fashion work goes down to a little bit of fitness, fashion, headshots, lifestyle, and product. And then, so that's like my keyword. And then I'll have like the client name. So I'll have my client name, and then I'll go in and I'll have it by date. So each of the dates of the shoots, and then I'll usually have my raws, and sometimes I'll have a separate folder for the JPEGs.
Where are these being backed up to? What's your backup process?
Yeah, definitely. So I would love it to be a little bit better. In my dreams, I have like a RAID system backup. But as of right now, usually what I do is, I will like I'll mark folders that need to be backed up, and those I will put onto two different hard drives. I usually have a couple hard drives for the year, and I've got them labeled with the date. And they say it doesn't exist unless it exists in three places. So it'll back up onto those two separate drives. And I do that, once every few months. And I usually keep images on my actual hard drive for a little while. Like you can see, this is like a December shoot, and I still have my raws on here just in case client comes back to me. I mean, we're March now, so I can probably get rid of those raws from my actual hard drive now that they're on an external hard drive. But you can see, like this October shoot, I don't have the raws on anymore, but I've got the JPEGs because I like to hold on to those a little bit longer on the actual computer hard drive, just in case my client reaches out and says, "Hey, we forgot to download the retransfer," yada yada.
Yeah.
And I've got
Are
them.
you typically just really holding on for the long term delivered files, or delivered RAWs or delivered JPEGs, or
Yeah,
what's kind
pretty
of being kept for the long haul?
pretty much only. I try to back up everything, but I really do prioritize final selects. Because typically that's what the client will need. And I also kind of communicate that to my client. I don't want any nasty surprises. I want them to know exactly um, what my system is and how it's going to work for them. Um, and so I let them know, just so you know, I am only holding on to selects here. If you would like me to hold on to more, just let me know. Or if, typically people don't come back to ask for new selects after a project has been done because there's momentum and we deliver the
Yeah,
project and it's complete.
that makes sense. Yeah, for weddings, I sit on everything for a year, and then after that, I kill everything that's undelivered, and then after that, it lands itself on some other drives.
Nice, nice. Yeah, and I think it's also different, talking about the kinds of clients that we work for. I think weddings are really specific too because you're working with clients who have never hired a photographer before. They don't
Yeah,
know what
they're
they're
not. Yeah, they're not in industry. You're working, which
Mhm,
actually that's a
mhm,
really good perception. You're working consistently with industry, other fellow industry professionals.
mhm, exactly. So people kind of assume generally that, they're making the selects and like they're not really going to get to keep the other things that aren't selects. While, I can understand for an individual who's never really worked in this space, the idea of some of their images being thrown away or not having access to them is like very scary.
If I'm a photographer, I've never photographed fashion. I'm not a street photographer, but I'm pretty inclined by it or interested by it. And I'm just kind of getting into the industry, and I want to learn how to make money and create a craft within that. What would be your career advice channel for that?
Well, I'll tell you what I did, because I think that there's sort of two routes that I would suggest. The one route that I really focused on was shooting with influencers. So when I moved to New York, I was so excited. I'd always been really interested in fashion and I'd already always followed lots of influencers. And I was so excited by how accessible they were. They were like so many of the people I had always followed were here. And, I was in school, I was on a visa, so I couldn't work, like I couldn't earn money. And so I wouldn't advise shooting for free. However, I legally could not work. So
Yeah.
I was reaching out to a lot of the influencers that I'd always looked up to. And I reached out and asked if they wanted to shoot together. And that's pretty much how I built the foundation of my business. I also really learned a lot about shooting in the street, working with ambient light, working with natural light, and challenging myself too. Also, working with other people's aesthetics. A lot of influencers have very specific aesthetics that they're looking to match. So it was a fun kind of project for me to sort of bring my own style, match their style. And it helped me branch out and meet a lot of people. So I think that's one route you can take. The other route is a little bit more formal, which is assisting photographers, reaching out to photographers that you can assist. And I definitely did that a little bit while I was in school as well. And it's really, you learn a lot from watching other people work, even if it's like, oh, I would love to work that way, or oh, I would never do it like that.
Yeah. Oh man, I feel so similar when it was pretty late in my career that I started reaching out to more like established and semi-famous photographers, and I said, okay,
Hmm.
let me go see if everything I'm doing is right or if I'm
Hmm.
doing everything wrong. And it was so
Hmm.
neat to show up and see somebody who I looked up to for years and see their day and go, oh, I really like how you do that, but also I do not like how you do that. I would never do it
Hmm.
that way. And it's such an insightful way. But I really like the idea that you're really throwing yourself into a space with street photography that you're out of control. Not
Hmm.
dissimilar to a wedding day. I have no control of the schedule or the light or what things are going to be. I'm just kind of a professional wing itter, and that feels kind of like street photography from the beginning. You're just kind of thrown into whatever aesthetic the person you're shooting with is, and whatever the weather is, and the lighting and everything.
Oh yeah, definitely. And at times I've had clients, ask me like, "Oh, can you scout out a location?" And I've gone ahead of time and I've scouted the location. And then it's New York, so you get there the next day and there's scaffolding up.
Yeah,
Or,
totally different day.
there's like a dead rat in front of where you wanted to shoot. And you're like, "Okay, well," and you just have to try. Or like the light isn't doing what you wanted it to do. It didn't do this yesterday. So I think it's a really gorgeous exercise to like think on your feet. I think it makes you a better photographer to be able to, see things and react, like be very reactive, I think is very important.
Yeah. Do you still go out just for fun? Do you still go out and just take photos for Sophie?
This is the thing. Is that it's okay for your hobbies to just be your hobbies.
Yeah.
And it's okay for once your hobbies become your work for them not to be your hobbies anymore. Like I really truly love what I do. I feel more myself each time I shoot. When I come home from a shoot, I'm like energized because I really feel like I am doing what I'm meant to, which I'm honestly so grateful for. And and it's fun while I'm doing it, and I want to have other hobbies. If I travel, I don't really take photos. Maybe I'm shooting on my iPhone. What I will say is the difference for me is that if I'm looking to shoot recreationally with friends, I bring my film camera. So I've got like a little contacts, and shooting on film for me is more of a casual shoot than bringing up my whole DSLR and my bag and all my kit, because I it's a huge kit
Yeah.
and I want to be
That
prepared for everything and I want to do it right.
that feels the same. I have different cameras for different like moods or things, whatever I'm
Mhm.
doing. And more often than not, if I'm with my friends, I just want to bring a little point and shoot. I have a Leica Mini Lux, and that lets me just snap some photos and not be editing or looking or even thinking about it. The camera's back in the bag. I'm back to doing my thing. Other times it's a phone, but if I'm traveling, I might bring like a mirrorless Leica or something like that. And be like, okay, I really want
Mhm.
to get great photos, but I do not want to make this my whole personality while I'm on this trip. I'm in Paris and I want croissants, not photos. Um,
Exactly, exactly. And not to
yeah.
worry about having your camera on you. I will say that a friend of mine has like the Fuji X1000, and I've heard
Yeah,
really great things about that camera. I think if I'm
same.
looking for a light, fun camera, a fun digital, that would be my next purchase.
Yeah, I have a Leica Q2 that kind of falls into
Mm.
that space for me because it's just a fixed 28 lens on there. It's a little too thick for like really carrying around all the time, but
Mhm.
I throw it in my like crossbody bag when I go on a bike ride. And that's my quick like maybe I'm riding, maybe I see something really cool, I want to photograph it, I want it to be a great image, but I don't want to put too much thought in it. I kind of like the limitation. Like this is the lens I've got, this is the camera
Mhm.
I've got. You don't have six options. Just kind of deal with what
Totally.
you've got.
Mm.
If you kind of touched on this earlier when you were working with someone last night, but if you were chatting with a photographer and they're doing any kind of work, especially the kind of work that you're doing where it's quick and they haven't heard of Select, what's your elevator pitch?
Honestly, it's like I don't want to tell you about this because it's so good, but I have to tell you.
Yeah.
If you're using anything else, you're doing it wrong. um, what I would say for Narrative Select, it's like amazing software with very little buffer time. It fits in seamlessly with your Adobe products, shipping to Lightroom. It's exactly what you need, and I feel like it's exactly what a lot of other software is lacking too. It's amazing. I mean, whether you're
Yeah.
in the wedding industry or, the event space anyways, I just think that doing general select on the software is like mind-blowingly easy, and that's what we need right now.
Yeah. Oh,
Mhm.
mind-blowingly easy. That's the perfect quote for it. So where can people find you? Do you have any workshops going on? Do you have anything for sale in the world, or should people check out your Instagram? Tell us where we should check you out.
Yeah, definitely. You can check me out on Instagram. My Instagram is at Sophie Sahara. I also have a website. Nothing major in the works, but I just moved into a new photo studio in Brooklyn, and I am going to be sharing more and more about that. So you can check that out on my
Cool.
Instagram.
Okay, cool. Something to look
Mhm.
forward to. Well, thanks
Yeah,
for taking the time today and talking. This has been really great, really insightful from a totally different angle of the photography business than we've really had a chance to talk about.
totally. Oh, thanks for having me. I love the software. I can't stop talking about it to my friends. They're like, please stop. And I'm like, no. So it's nice to have
That's
an
the
outlet.
best.